She's not going to be box jumping for 20 reps. Sorry, CrossFitters. Welcome. I am Tom Hall, long-time coach, educator, very low-level handicapper for golf, and incredibly recreational triathlete. The point of this series, we're looking at different athletes, what they post on their social media. Does their gym work relate into the world of us and how we train ourselves for some of these sports, and what they're actually doing? Can we sprinkle it in, or does it simply look like garbage? This one I don't think does, but I am here to spread a little bit of light on some of the stuff that you won't get taught, and we're gonna go over it in a little bit of an S&C hat and put it into the general populace of personal training. We are sticking with the world of athletics. We looked at Keely Hodgkinson, tough word to say, Hodgkinson, last time, and we have decided to drop down. We're losing half the race, and we're going to Femke, ridiculously good athlete. So we're going to see a video that was doing the rounds over the last year or so, and I do not know every single bit of this exercise. I watched it about a year ago, or whenever the Olympics was, 9 months ago. I went, all good. I think I actually saw her live. It even says guess the sport and event she's training for. 400 meter hurdles is her main event. She's pretty quick. All right. So without further ado, let's run over with a fine tooth comb and decide whether we can sprinkle some science onto this wonderful bit of training. I think there's some jammy music to go over as well. We'll turn it down. So I think this is a longer video than what we did before, but obviously we're just doing a reel from Instagram, but there's a lot of stuff to digest. A lot of stuff. Interesting. And that's her knackered. Alright, lots to digest here. Alright, so not all of this is going to be takeaway exactly for the gym, because we can see she went outside for a little bit, and gym guys, we don't like going outside, do we? Alright, so we're going to be able to see what of this stuff we can apply and what the hell is going on. Alright, so we have here is her lying down. We are going into something that I write into some of my athletes. I tend not to use the band that much, but we certainly will use these. These are bridge hamstring catches, and as we'll see, she's dropping in each time, okay? Boom, boom, boom. So she's only really doing the eccentric portion of this lift, okay? So she's flinging herself. So it's going the same in reverse as it is going forwards. As a lot of these movements are so technically good. So she's jumping off this right leg, and then she's basically catching herself with her hamstring onto a band, which leads to more chaos. So there's probably little things that are happening across her, basically semimembranosus, semitendinosus, her adductor, her hip are all playing ball as she stays in extension of that hip, and she's having to catch herself and take that across, and she replaces that other foot and throws it up again. It's very much about overloading the eccentric capacity of hamstrings, because she will be going where most hamstring tears happen is when you stretch out and grip down in deceleration, okay? But as she's accelerating is when she's putting the most force and a terminal top speed, which she's got a lot of during her 400 meter hurdles, and she's catching and jumping every single hurdle. She's able to access and explore how much hamstring can take that much force, which is what these guys are drilled to do. Beautiful. So that one, let's scroll that back, is just a hip drill, okay? She's giving that leg, which is obviously, she's a hurdler. She's got a little bit of eccentric load, so she's loading her hips slightly, and she's going through what is essentially like a card, a controlled articular rotation of her acetabulum, of her hip. So that's pretty cool. And she's just in a forward lean structure because she's going to be going through, I'm assuming this is like an acceleration phase as she's going through there. Otherwise, she'd be standing nice and upright. But that's going to basically give her a little bit less of an angle to play with at her hip. Okay? Because of her torso leaning forward. These ones, unsure on those ones. Let's scroll that back, shall we? A similar kind of mobilization. And again, I'm S&C hat on here. Don't see the point of these ones, if I'm honest. Shoot me. But she's pretty good. I think she's probably good in spite of this exercise. So she's rolling around, getting a lot of hip kind of mobility and stability on that Bosu ball, not Bosu ball, Swiss ball. But I don't think that's doing anything for her, as far as I know. And she's concurrently moving the other leg, so the pelvis is having to stabilise, but I can't imagine it's going to be doing much. These ones, absolutely fine. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, these are kind of box bounds, box hops, power bounds, whatever you want to call them, in a stagger. These regularly make it into my runners, ultra runners, whatever, marathon runners. Hyrox athletes, field-based athletes will do some sort of offset jumps to make dominant flexion and extension on alternate legs. Okay, so their pelvis is jumping off one kind of side more than the other. Really good exercise. You can see her training partner's doing as well. Okay, so you can see in this position, she's going to be pushing off massively off that left leg, but she's got a lot more muscular force. But the other one is dropping in a lot further on that right leg, so she's having to rely on a lot more elastic force and a tendon into that extension pattern. Okay, these ones, not too sure about those. The kind of toe jab going on. I'm not too sure whether there's a point to it or whether it's just pure chaos. The overhead position is to keep her upright. I make a lot of people, and we tend to get people running in this overhead position so their torso does not drop down, and then you get this horrible kind of position where you can't lift your leg up because of your torso drop. So you might see a lot of people running with arms out or arms or dowel over their head to maintain thoracic structure, okay, to allow her hip get as much motion as possible. Not too sure what else is happening here. The toe jabs, take it or leave it, if I'm honest. A little bit core lateral stability, about it. I'm clutching at straws, guys. This one, love them. Okay, single leg dumbbell swings. Almost think of yourself on a kettlebell swing, but you're using one hand to support yourself on a nice structure, and then only one leg is going with the kettlebell or whatever. I tend to use a kettlebell instead of dumbbell, but whatever floats your boat on these ones. They are a beautiful exercise. Okay, I would highly recommend someone going through and putting these in if they want to get essentially a lot of triple extension, almost triple extension, a lot of hip extension, and we're able to load this. I tend to make these a little bit more squatty, so we bend through the knee, but she's pretty tall, so I think there's probably a mechanics issue that she probably can't get that low, but there's a lot of hip hinge going on there. Really cool exercise. These guys, it's very much looking at how much height they can create, basically, from their hurdle. I think that's not much we really need to look there. I would prefer if somebody was going, it almost looks like it's conditioning, if I'm honest, because she's going out of her drive phase there and then going into a big step. So she's, I would assume, reaching over the hurdle and then gripping to pull yourself up. If I was her coach, I'd want her to pause for a second up there, then replace. Take it or leave it. These ones, very cool. Okay, she's going to be in a lot of split stances, and this is literally just a kneeling to half kneeling split clean. Okay, so she's doing a clean. It's actually a snatch, isn't it? Okay, I do cleans with these with a lot of my athletes, so it's a nice safe position to do snatches as well. Okay, if you're not too confident in someone getting full body, we take them down. It's a kind of categorization of how we obtain human movement. We might make somebody go into a small kneeling position, then a half kneeling position, then a tall kneeling position. So she's going from a very shallow kneel, which is very safe, not much bad can happen, lots of points of contact, and then she flings it up, so she's getting that hip extension, that full body of being able to go into that snatch position. So she's got all that power that she's generating, and that hip is flying through, and she's catching herself in a half kneel, which you'll do like overhead presses with and rows and stuff. Okay, this one, yeah, pretty cool. I believe it's just a single leg bridge with hip flexors. Jesus Christ. Okay, so that hip flexor is bringing up. Let's rewind this. So she's got, there's a lot going on, right? She's in a bridge position. That band is tied around her laces and her feet. So she's got kind of a hip flexor kind of reaction and concentric action happening. She's also got that position to hold, so she's got a lot of core stability happening, so that she's trying to be dragged backwards over her head, so she's having to hold that, bring that down, so her kind of everything, if you're thinking about pulling that down, your lats are going to be on fire, hopefully. Quite a lot happening there. I've probably been off this top position because the main benefit is happening on the foot. Too many cooks comes to mind. These guys, okay. I think we can put both of these in the same category, right? So these are cool. They're not really counted as plyometrics. They are very much, these probably could be, but she's obtaining this long gait position that she's obviously having to use for her hurdles, which is a little bit different from maybe we saw Keely last week, and being able to obtain that. Okay, so she's got a big old leap, and these are kind of almost bounds. Imagine she did that backwards. So we'll go through this, okay, nice and slowly. So she's already in a really deep hip flex position, and like we said, we didn't think that she could probably obtain lots of knee flexion and send that knee way over the toe. I think this pretty much categorizes that. She's getting as much hip, and she's absorbing, so she's almost doing a deep tier plyometric is what we tend to call it, where she absorbs, and they're a little bit more absorby and springy and spongy than the snappy ground contact time that we might be used to with an A skip or a B skip, for example. Okay, and those pogos, I get them to do sinky plyometrics. Okay, so she's going to get a little bit more sink and absorption in that jump and bound each time. Okay, which is perfectly valid. You're just getting a little bit more muscular contraction with your tendon as well. That just looks like fun, if I'm honest. Right. That was pretty fucking good, right? If you're able to take any of those things away, I think hamstring catches, the little split and snatch thing, some of the hip mobility and deep tier plyometrics are definitely going to make you a faster runner. I don't think they're going to make you particularly, if your ideas or anything around aesthetics, I wouldn't bother. It's just going to be cardio conditioning, but a lot of this she's putting high intensity into, okay, but she won't be doing anything more than like 8 reps on each single thing because she's trying to get as much power into her as possible. Okay, she's going to be working pretty much anaerobically when she's lifting or when she's running, so that's the main energy system she's going to be wanting, and those qualities really paramount. She's not going to be box jumping for 20 reps. Sorry, CrossFitters. Interesting part of the session though, this is all kind of flowing and throwing her body weight around and using different structures of being able to do plyometrics, power work. Okay, there's no strength work in there whatsoever, which I'd be really interested to see what she does in terms of strength work, whether it be deadlifts, RDLs. We'll see a lot of these girls RDL more than they deadlift off the floor. We'll see a lot of them power clean or power do that kind of stuff just because of bang for buck. It's just more safe for them. Let me know in the comments, did any of that make sense? Would you take any of it away? Do you think you're going to be a better runner if you took any of that stuff and inserted it into your sessions? I think we're going to go look at what the Eagles did right before they won the Super Bowl.